She walked into the clinic expecting joy. She left with a broken heart. Lisa adjusted her coat as she stepped into the clinic, her hands cradling her growing belly. 7 months along, the excitement of meeting her baby soon was the only thing keeping her going. Her husband, Jake, had been distant lately, making excuses to miss appointments. But today, she reassured herself, was a good day. She was finally going to see her baby's face on the ultrasound again. She checked in at the front desk, smiling at the receptionist, before taking a seat in the waiting area. Her phone buzzed, a message from Jake, "Sorry, work emergency. Can't make it. Let's celebrate tonight." Lisa sighed. Another broken promise. The nurse finally called her in. She settled onto the examination table as the doctor pulled up her file. But then, something strange happened. The doctor frowned at the screen, hesitated, then asked, "Lisa, I see another prenatal record under your husband's insurance. Are you being seen at another clinic?" Lisa blinked. "No, just here." The doctor turned the screen toward her. There it was, another claim, another pregnancy, another woman. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. That must be a mistake. The doctor hesitated. "I can't disclose patient details, but the name isn't yours." The world blurred. Her hands trembled as she fumbled for her phone, her heart pounding so loudly she could barely think. Jake wouldn't, would he? Tears welled up in her eyes as reality crashed down on her. He wasn't working late. He wasn't missing appointments because of emergencies. He was with someone else. And she was pregnant, too. Lisa forced herself to stand, her legs weak beneath her. She couldn't breathe. She needed air. She stumbled out of the clinic, barely aware of the concerned looks from the staff. The cold air hit her face as she stepped outside, but it did nothing to stop the storm raging inside her. And then, she heard it. The unmistakable hum of an expensive engine. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb. The tinted window rolled down, revealing a face she hadn't expected to see. Her brother, David. His sharp, calculating eyes scanned her tear-streaked face, his jaw tightening. "Lisa," he said, stepping out of the car, his voice calm but laced with unspoken fury. "What happened?" She opened her mouth, but the words wouldn't come. The betrayal, the pain, it was too much. David didn't need an answer. One look at her told him everything. And just like that, the game changed. Lisa stood frozen, the weight of betrayal crushing her chest. She had no words, only tears she refused to let fall. Her brother, David, towered over her, his eyes scanning her face, taking in every sign of distress. "Lisa," he said again, this time softer, but with an edge of steel beneath his voice. "Tell me what happened." She swallowed hard, trying to steady her breath. "It's Jake," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. David's eyes darkened at the name. Lisa clutched her stomach, a protective instinct kicking in. He's been lying to me. Her throat clenched. "There's another woman. She's pregnant, too. The doctor showed me the insurance records." A long silence stretched between them. David's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes, something cold, dangerous. He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his neatly combed hair. "Get in the car," he said. Lisa hesitated. "David, get in the car." His tone left no room for argument. Too exhausted to fight, Lisa let him open the door for her. The moment she settled into the plush leather seat, her body gave in to the emotional toll. She stared blankly ahead as the car pulled away from the clinic. David drove in silence for a while, his grip on the wheel tight. When he finally spoke, his voice was unnervingly calm. "I knew something was off about him. Lisa turned to him, startled. What? David clenched his jaw. I didn't want to say anything without proof. But I had a feeling Jake was up to something. I just didn't know it was this bad. Lisa's hands balled into fists. Why didn't you tell me? David sighed, his tone softer now. Because you love him. And I didn't want to be the reason your marriage fell apart. He glanced at her. But now, I don't care. He did this to himself. Lisa felt the sting of his words. Had she been blind all this time? Had she ignored the warning signs because she wanted to believe in Jake? David's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen but didn't answer. Instead, he said, I'm taking you home. Lisa tensed. I don't want to go home. Jake will be there. David nodded as if he expected that answer. Then you're staying with me. She let out a shaky breath. She didn't want to be alone. As David drove toward his estate, a gated property on the outskirts of town, Lisa tried to process everything. But the pain was too raw. Her husband, the man she had trusted, the father of her unborn child, had been leading a double life. And now, she had no idea what she was supposed to do next. David pulled into the long driveway and parked. Come inside, he said. Lisa stepped out, looking up at the massive house. It was a stark contrast to the cozy home she had built with Jake. David had always been the successful one, the one who had made something of himself. And now, she needed him more than ever. The moment she stepped inside, David turned to her. You're not going back to him, Lisa. Lisa stiffened. David, I need time to think. You don't need time. You need the truth. His voice was firm. And I'm going to find it for you. Lisa shook her head, overwhelmed. What does that mean? David took out his phone and made a call. I need you to look into someone for me, he said. His voice was sharper now, all business. Jake Peterson. Find everything you can on him. Lisa's stomach twisted. David, no. He hung up. You deserve to know who you married. A chill ran down Lisa's spine. A part of her didn't want to know. But deep down, she already had a feeling. Jake's betrayal was just the beginning. And David? David was about to uncover everything. Lisa sat on the plush couch in her brother's estate, her mind clouded with pain and disbelief. The weight of Jake's betrayal pressed on her chest, making it hard to breathe. David paced the room, his sharp eyes glued to his phone, waiting for a response from his investigator. The silence between them was thick with unspoken words. Finally, Lisa spoke. I don't understand. Why would he do this? We were happy, David. Her voice broke at the last word. David stopped pacing and looked at her. Were you? Lisa flinched. She wanted to defend her marriage, but doubt gnawed at her. Had she been living a lie this whole time? Before she could answer, David's phone buzzed. He put it on speaker. Talk to me, he said, his voice clipped. A deep voice responded. You were right to be suspicious, David. Jake Peterson is drowning in debt. He's been moving money around between accounts, taking loans, and, the investigator hesitated. He's involved in something shady. Lisa's blood ran cold. What do you mean, shady? The investigator sighed. He's been funneling money into offshore accounts, claiming they're for business investments. But from what I see, there's no business. It's a front. David clenched his jaw. Who else is involved? There's another name linked to some of the transactions. A woman, Mia Carter. Lisa's breath hitched. That's the other woman, isn't it? David glanced at her, his expression unreadable. It gets worse, Lisa. Jake didn't just cheat on you. He was using your money to fund his double life. Lisa felt her stomach twist. No, that can't be right. I handle our finances. I would have noticed. The investigator continued, he's been careful. Small withdrawals here and there, moving money between different accounts so you wouldn't notice the missing amounts. But that's not the worst part. Lisa clutched the armrest. What could be worse than that? A long pause. He's planning to disappear. Lisa's heart pounded. Disappear? David's expression darkened. Explain. The investigator exhaled. I found a flight booked under his alias, set for 2 weeks from now. One way. To a country with no extradition treaty. Lisa's hands shook. You're saying, he was going to leave me? Abandon me and our baby? The investigator's voice softened. That's exactly what I'm saying. And from the way his accounts are set up, he was planning to leave you with nothing. Tears blurred Lisa's vision. The betrayal cut deeper than she ever thought possible. Jake hadn't just cheated, he had plotted to destroy her. David's hand tightened into a fist. This ends now. Lisa wiped her tears, anger now replacing her heartbreak. What do we do? David's gaze was cold, determined. First, we confront the other woman. She might not even know the truth. Lisa hesitated. The thought of meeting Mia felt unbearable. But if there was even a chance to get answers, she had to take it. Fine, she whispered. Let's do it. David nodded and turned to the investigator. Send me everything you have. I want every detail. Lisa took a shaky breath. She had walked into that clinic expecting joy. Instead, she had walked out with her entire world shattered. But if Jake thought she was going to let him get away with this, he was dead wrong. Lisa's hands trembled as she sat in the passenger seat of David's sleek black car. The city lights blurred through the windshield, her mind struggling to grasp the reality of what was happening. She was on her way to meet Mia Carter. The other woman. The woman carrying Jake's child. Lisa had expected pain. Had braced herself for it. But this was beyond betrayal. Jake hadn't just been unfaithful. He had been stealing from her. Planning to abandon her. And now, she had no idea what she was walking into. David drove in silence, his expression unreadable. His grip on the wheel was tight, knuckles white. Finally, he spoke. We'll be careful. We don't know if she's in on it or just another victim. Lisa swallowed hard. What if she doesn't believe us? David's voice was firm. Then we make her. They pulled into the parking lot of a quiet cafe on the edge of town. Through the large windows, Lisa spotted a woman sitting alone at a table. She looked nervous, glancing around as if expecting someone to appear at any moment. Lisa's stomach twisted. Mia Carter was young, maybe mid-20s. She had long, chestnut hair and tired eyes. There was something vulnerable about her, something that didn't match the image Lisa had built in her mind. This wasn't some villain. This was someone just as trapped as she was. David killed the engine. Are you ready? No. She wasn't. But she nodded anyway. Together, they stepped inside. The small bell above the door jingled, and Mia's head snapped up. The moment she saw Lisa, her face paled. You, Mia's voice faltered. She swallowed, her hands clutching her coffee cup. You're Lisa, aren't you? Lisa's heart pounded. Yes. Mia hesitated, her eyes flicking to David. Who's he? My brother, Lisa said. David didn't smile. He didn't offer pleasantries. He simply slid into the seat across from Mia, his cold gaze locking onto hers. Mia shifted uncomfortably. Why are you here? Lisa took a deep breath. Because we need answers. Mia looked down, running a hand through her hair. I don't understand. David's voice was sharp. How long have you been seeing Jake? Mia flinched at the name. A little over a year. Lisa's stomach twisted. A year? That meant Jake had been lying to her long before she even got pregnant. Mia looked back at Lisa, guilt flashing across her face. I didn't know he was married. Lisa's breath caught. What? Mia bit her lip. He told me he was a widower. That his wife had died in an accident years ago. I believed him. Lisa's mind reeled. She felt like she was drowning, every revelation pulling her further under. David's expression didn't change. You're pregnant with his child? Mia nodded. 7 months. The same as Lisa. David leaned forward, his voice low. Did you know he was planning to leave the country? Mia's eyes widened. Leave? Lisa could tell instantly, she hadn't known. David pulled out his phone and placed it on the table. We have proof. Bank records. A one-way ticket in 2 weeks. Offshore accounts. He's not just running from Lisa. He's running from you, too. Mia's hands began to shake. No. That's not possible. Lisa's throat tightened. Mia, he used my money to fund your life. He was never planning to stay. He's been playing both of us. Tears welled in Mia's eyes. She let out a shaky breath. I swear, I didn't know. I thought he loved me. Lisa felt something unexpected rise in her chest. Not anger. Not hatred. Pity. Because in that moment, she saw it. Mia wasn't just the other woman. She was just another victim. Mia blinked rapidly, trying to process it all. Then, her expression shifted. Hardened. What do we do? She whispered. David's lips curled into a slow, dangerous smile. We make him pay. Mia sat frozen, her fingers trembling against the coffee cup. The weight of betrayal crushed the air around them, thick and suffocating. Lisa watched as realization dawned on her face. Jake had never loved her. He had used her, just like he had used Lisa. David leaned back in his chair, his sharp eyes scanning Mia's expression. Are you ready to hear the rest? Mia swallowed hard, nodding. Tell me everything. David unlocked his phone and slid it across the table. These are Jake's financial records. You'll see your name there, Mia. Every deposit, every gift he gave you, it came from Lisa's accounts. Mia's breath hitched as she scrolled through the transactions. No, that can't be right. He said his business was doing well. He told me he was investing in properties. Lisa crossed her arms. That's what he told me, too. Mia looked up, her face pale. I trusted him. David's voice was low and even, but there was steel behind it. Jake is a liar. A manipulator. And he's not just playing with emotions, he's playing with money. And worse, the law. Lisa frowned. What do you mean? David tapped the table. The private investigator found something even worse than the offshore accounts. He's involved in fraud. Lisa's stomach dropped. Fraud? David nodded. He's been falsifying business transactions, taking out loans under fake company names, and laundering money through shell accounts. But here's the kicker, he turned to Mia. He used your name on some of those accounts. Mia's face drained of color. What? Lisa's breath hitched. Wait, are you saying? Yes, David confirmed. If this goes public, Mia, you'll go down with him. Mia's hands flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with fear. No, I didn't sign anything. She trailed off, her face twisting in horror. Oh my God. Lisa's pulse pounded. What is it? Mia's lips quivered. There was one time. Jake had me sign a few business forms. He said they were just some legalities for his company, nothing serious. I didn't even read them. Lisa's blood ran cold. Mia. Mia's breathing became erratic. I didn't know. I just signed because I loved him. I thought she choked on her words. David's jaw tightened. He's setting you up. If the authorities start investigating, he'll disappear, and you'll be the one left to take the fall. Tears spilled down Mia's cheeks. No, this can't be happening. Lisa felt a mix of anger and sympathy. She had spent the past few hours hating Mia, resenting her for being part of Jake's deception. But now? Now she realized Mia had been played just as cruelly. David's voice was firm. You have two choices. You can wait until Jake runs and lets you take the blame, or... Mia looked up, her lips trembling. Or what? David smirked. Or we stop him first. Mia wiped her tears. How? Lisa took a deep breath, bracing herself. We set him up. Mia blinked. Set him up? David's eyes gleamed with quiet satisfaction. Yes. We make him confess. We get everything in writing, his plans, his finances, the fraud. And we make sure he has no way out. Lisa felt her heart race. This was it. The moment she took control. Mia hesitated, then nodded. I'll do whatever it takes. David leaned forward. Good. Because we don't have much time. Lisa looked between them, her mind spinning. Jake thought he had them fooled. But now? Now the game had changed. Lisa stood in front of the mirror, staring at her own reflection. Her face looked different, tired, drained, but underneath the exhaustion, there was something else. Determination. She wasn't going to be Jake's fool anymore. David and Mia had spent the last few hours laying out a plan, one that was both risky and necessary. If Jake wanted to disappear and leave them behind, then they had to move before he did. Lisa turned away from the mirror and walked back into the living room, where David and Mia were deep in discussion. David looked up as she entered. Are you sure about this? He asked. Lisa nodded. I have to be. Mia fidgeted with her hands. I still can't believe he set me up for fraud. How could I have been so stupid? Lisa sat beside her. You weren't stupid, Mia. He knew exactly how to manipulate us. David tapped the table to get their attention. All right, let's go over the plan again. We only have one chance to make this work. Lisa took a deep breath. I call Jake. I tell him I want to meet. That I found out about Mia but that I still love him and want to make things right. David smirked. And that you're willing to help him with his financial situation. Lisa nodded. Right. I'll tell him I'm willing to transfer a large sum of money into his account so we can run away together. Mia's eyes darkened. That's exactly what he wants. David continued, but what he doesn't know is that I'll be listening in. And more importantly, so will the lawyer and the authorities. Lisa's hands tightened into fists. We'll get him to admit everything. The fraud, the affair, the plan to disappear. David leaned back. Once we have enough, the authorities move in. And Jake? He'll never see it coming. Mia exhaled. What if he suspects something? Lisa clenched her jaw. He won't. Because I've played this role for years, the loyal wife who believes every lie he tells. She swallowed. And for the last time, I'll pretend to believe him. David checked his watch. Let's get this started. Lisa picked up her phone, her palms sweating as she scrolled to Jake's contact. The plan was in motion, and now, there was no turning back. She pressed the call button. It rang. And then, his voice came through the line. "Lisa?" Lisa forced a smile, making her voice soft, vulnerable. "Hey, Jake, can we talk?" There was a pause. Lisa, I didn't think you'd want to speak to me." "I know," she whispered. "But I've been thinking. About us. About our baby. I don't want to fight anymore." David gave her a thumbs up. Lisa continued, "I know about Mia, Jake. And it hurts. But I can't stop loving you." She let her voice break, letting her real pain fuel the act. "I want to start over. Just you, me, and the baby." Jake hesitated. "Lisa, are you sure?" Lisa took a shaky breath. "Yes. I'll do anything to make this work. I even pulled some money out of savings. We can leave, Jake. I'll go anywhere with you." David smirked. "That's it. Reel him in." Jake exhaled. "Lisa, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," she whispered. "Meet me at our favorite restaurant tonight. Just us. No drama. No fighting." Another pause. Then, Jake sighed. "All right. I'll be there." Lisa swallowed the lump in her throat. "I love you, Jake." "I love you too," he said. The words burned, but Lisa forced herself to stay calm. She ended the call and set the phone down. Her hands were shaking. David leaned forward. "You did good." Mia let out a breath. "So, what happens now?" Lisa met her gaze. "Now? We end this." The dimly lit restaurant buzzed with quiet conversations and the clinking of silverware. Lisa sat at a corner table, her hands wrapped around a glass of water, her heart pounding against her ribs. Jake was late. She glanced at the entrance, feigning nervous anticipation, while beneath the table, her phone was connected to a live call. David and the lawyer were listening in from a car parked just outside. Mia was sitting at the bar in disguise, a hat pulled low over her face. She wasn't just here to listen, she was the backup in case things went sideways. Lisa's stomach twisted when she saw him. Jake walked in, as confident as ever, dressed in his usual tailored suit. He scanned the room, spotting Lisa almost immediately. His expression softened, an act she had once fallen for. Not this time. Lisa forced herself to smile, standing up as he approached. "Hey," she said, letting her voice tremble just enough to sound sincere. Jake sighed and pulled her into an embrace. "Lisa. I've missed you." His words sent a chill down her spine, but she hugged him back, knowing that every moment counted. They sat down, and Jake reached for her hand across the table. "I didn't think you'd want to see me after everything." Lisa exhaled shakily. "I love you, Jake. I can't just throw everything away." She bit her lip, looking down as if gathering courage. "I meant what I said. I want to run away with you. Just us and the baby." Jake studied her, his eyes searching for deception. Lisa forced herself to continue, playing her part flawlessly. "I even pulled money from my accounts. I want to help you. I know things haven't been easy for you financially." Jake tensed slightly. "What do you mean?" Lisa hesitated. "I know about the loans, Jake. I know about the offshore accounts." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "I know things got messy, but it doesn't matter. I don't care about the money, I just want us to be together." Jake's jaw clenched. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "You found out about that?" he asked slowly. Lisa nodded. "I know you were just trying to protect me." You didn't tell me because you didn't want to stress me out, right? She squeezed his hand. But I'm your wife. I can handle it. We can handle it, together. A slow smirk tugged at Jake's lips. He bought it. Lisa held her breath as he leaned in. You really would do that for me? Lisa nodded, playing into his ego. I already started transferring money. It's waiting for you in the account. Jake exhaled, looking relieved. God, Lisa, you have no idea how much this means to me. Lisa fought the bile rising in her throat. Jake leaned in further. But, there's something I need to tell you. Something I haven't told anyone. Lisa's heart pounded. This is it. Jake glanced around the restaurant, lowering his voice. I was never going to leave you. Lisa froze. What? Jake smirked. Mia was just a distraction. I never planned to keep her. She was useful for a while, but I only needed her for the financials. Once I got enough, I was going to cut her loose. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. Jake chuckled. I was only ever going to take you with me. Mia was just a pawn in the game. Lisa's fingers curled into fists beneath the table. She wasn't the only one who heard it. From the bar, Mia stiffened, her hands shaking as she gripped her drink. The realization hit her like a freight train. Jake had never cared about either of them. The line was still open, David and the lawyer had just recorded everything. Lisa swallowed hard. I don't know what to say. Jake smiled, oblivious. Say you trust me. Lisa inhaled sharply, but before she could respond, a cold voice cut through the air. I think we've heard enough. Lisa turned just as David and two officers approached the table. Jake's smirk faded. What the hell is this? David dropped a folder onto the table. Evidence. Fraud. Embezzlement. And a lovely confession, recorded in real time. Jake's face paled. Lisa? His voice cracked. You set me up? Lisa finally let her mask slip. She sat back, crossing her arms. You set yourself up. Mia appeared beside David, her face unreadable. Guess I wasn't the only pawn, huh? Jake's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, he had nothing to say. An officer stepped forward. Jake Peterson, you're under arrest for financial fraud and identity theft. Jake snapped out of his shock, standing abruptly. No. This is a mistake. The officer grabbed his arm. You have the right to remain silent. Jake turned to Lisa, panic in his eyes. You love me, Lisa. Don't do this. Think about our baby. Lisa stared at him. The man she had once loved was gone, if he had ever existed at all. With quiet finality, she whispered, I am thinking about our baby. Jake fought as they dragged him away, his shouts echoing in the restaurant. Lisa exhaled, feeling lighter for the first time in months. Mia turned to her. What now? Lisa looked at her, at David, and at the empty seat where Jake once sat. She already knew the answer. Now. I start over. Lisa sat in David's car, staring blankly at the city lights through the window. The restaurant, the confrontation, Jake's arrest, it all felt surreal, like a movie playing in slow motion. She had imagined this moment for weeks. Had rehearsed every possible outcome in her mind. But now that it was over, an unsettling emptiness settled in her chest. Mia sat in the back seat, her arms wrapped around herself. The betrayal still fresh on her face, her eyes red-rimmed from silent tears. David pulled into the driveway of his estate, turning off the engine. You both okay? Lisa inhaled deeply, grounding herself. I don't know. David glanced at Mia through the rearview mirror. And you? Mia let out a bitter laugh. I just found out the man I loved was using me as a financial scapegoat before planning to dump me. How do you think I'm doing? David nodded. Fair enough. The three of them sat in silence, the weight of everything hanging heavy in the air. Finally, Lisa spoke. What happens now? David turned to her, his voice steady. Legally? Jake's going to prison for a long time. He confessed to everything. The lawyers will make sure he doesn't get a way out. Lisa swallowed hard. And me? David softened. You get to rebuild your life. She let out a shaky breath. The idea was terrifying. For years, she had built everything around Jake, their home, their future, the dream of raising their child together. Now, all of that was gone. But maybe that wasn't a bad thing. Mia cleared her throat. And what about me? I was tied to some of his accounts. Will I be arrested? David shook his head. The lawyer is already working on it. You were a victim. You had no idea what Jake was doing in your name. You'll be fine. Mia let out a breath of relief, but her expression was still haunted. I feel so stupid. Lisa turned to her. You weren't stupid. Mia looked at her, eyes filled with guilt. I was part of the reason this happened to you. Lisa hesitated. There was a time when she had blamed Mia completely. When she had imagined her as the villain, the woman who had stolen Jake from her. But that wasn't the truth. Jake had stolen everything, from both of them. Lisa reached over, squeezing Mia's hand. You didn't do this to me. He did. Mia blinked, as if unsure how to process the forgiveness. Then, her lips trembled, and she gave a small nod. David stretched his arms. All right, enough emotional bonding. You're both staying here for a while. Lisa frowned. David. No arguments, he cut her off. You're pregnant, Lisa. You need support. And Mia, you're in no shape to be alone either. Mia raised a brow. So what, we're forming some kind of women Jake betrayed support group. David smirked. Call it whatever you want. But until things settle, you're both safer here. Lisa opened her mouth to protest, but stopped. Because, for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel alone. She had spent so long believing Jake was her partner, her safe place. But this, her brother's unwavering presence, Mia's unexpected bond, this was real. Lisa smiled faintly. Okay. Mia nodded. Yeah. Okay. David stood up. Good. Now let's eat. I haven't had dinner, and emotionally exhausting confrontations make me hungry. Lisa laughed. A real laugh. And as she followed them inside, she realized something. She wasn't broken. She was just beginning again. 1 month later. Lisa sat on the back patio of David's estate, cradling a cup of tea in her hands. The air was crisp, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink as the sun dipped below the horizon. Her hand instinctively rested on her growing belly. So much had changed in just a few weeks. Jake was gone. His trial had moved quickly, thanks to the overwhelming evidence against him. Fraud. Embezzlement. Identity theft. His confession at the restaurant had sealed his fate. The last Lisa had heard, he was facing up to 15 years in prison. Mia had been officially cleared of any involvement. The lawyer had worked fast, proving that she had no knowledge of the fraudulent accounts under her name. Now, she was working on rebuilding her life. Lisa glanced to the side, where Mia sat beside her, sipping her own tea. I got a job, Mia said suddenly. Lisa turned to her. Really? Mia nodded, smiling faintly. David pulled some strings. It's nothing fancy, just a receptionist job at a small firm. But it's stable. And it's mine. Lisa squeezed her hand. I'm proud of you. Mia exhaled, looking up at the sky. I still have days where I feel like an idiot for trusting Jake. For believing his lies. She glanced at Lisa. But I don't regret meeting you. Lisa smiled softly. Me neither. David stepped onto the patio, holding a folder. All right, ladies. Time for an update. Lisa raised a brow. What now? David smirked. The lawyer finished going through Jake's accounts. Turns out, you're entitled to a large portion of the remaining assets. Lisa stiffened. Wait, what? David placed the folder on the table. Your name was on several accounts. He may have been planning to leave you with nothing, but legally? Half of it was yours all along. Lisa hesitated. How much? David shrugged. Enough that you won't have to worry about money for a long time. Mia whistled. Poetic justice. Lisa stared at the folder. For years, she had built a life with Jake. Believed in him. Trusted him. And in return, he had tried to take everything from her. But now, sitting here, surrounded by people who truly cared about her, she realized something. She didn't need Jake. She never had. Lisa pushed the folder away. I don't want his money. David's expression remained unreadable. Lisa, be smart. You have a baby on the way. Lisa sighed. I'll take what I need to ensure the baby's future. But the rest? I don't want anything that ties me to him. David nodded slowly. Fair enough. Mia smirked. Honestly? That's the biggest slap in the face you could give him. Lisa chuckled. Good. She stood, stretching her arms. For the first time in what felt like forever, she felt free. The weight of betrayal had been replaced with something else. Strength. Jake had taken so much from her. But he had not taken her spirit. Lisa turned to David. Thank you. David raised a brow. For what? Lisa smiled. For being here. For fighting for me when I couldn't fight for myself. David scoffed, but there was warmth in his eyes. That's what family does. Lisa exhaled, looking out at the sunset. A new chapter had begun. One where she wasn't just someone's wife. She was Lisa. A mother. A survivor. And for the first time in a long time, she was happy.